Hi everyone, this is Suraj. Today we're talking about the difference between IEnumerable and IQueryable. Difference between IEnumerable and IQueryable. In .NET Core. In .NET. Okay. So let's get to start with. So first we explain what is IEnumerable. So IEnumerable IEnumerable is used for in-memory data collection and link it to object. Okay. It's work after data load into memory. It work after data into memory. Let's take example. List of integer number is equal to new list of integer 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on. Then we use IEnumerable. Of integer result equal to numbers where x is x dot x is greater than 2. Okay, then we execute it and then we use for each where item in result console.writeLine item okay, so they return it, just close it. This is just initial example we have. Like here what is happening? Here like it's happening entire entry collection is already in memory. Filtering happen in application memory. Okay. Okay, so let's take what is iQueryable. So IQueryable used for remote data use, database query, link you to entity, like entity framework. Okay. So what is exactly happen inside? Like filtering happen at database level. Example we take like IQueryable of employee equal to db context of employee, and then we take result employee dot where e dot salary is greater than 50,000, and then we run for each item in result. Console.writeLine console.writeLine is item dot name. We can just return it this part. So here what is happening? Here is like query not execute immediately. It's convert into SQL and filter happen in database. Okay, so let's take key difference inside. So let's take IEnumerable. They have some execution in memory. Loads full data first. Then filter. And what about IQueryable? They have execute in database. filter before loading data, and more efficient for larger data set. That is happen. Okay, so let's take performance difference example. So let's take performance example, like a bad example, IEnumerable of employee equal to db context dot employee dot to list, and then where result is equal to employee dot where e dot salary is greater than 15k. Okay, what is the problem comes? All employees load into memory. Then filter happen. So the better approach we can use IEqueryable of employee is equal to db context dot employees, and then we apply where is equal to emp employee dot where e of e dot salary is greater than 15k. That is happen. So now what is happening inside SQL query will include where clause, only filter database patch, much faster. Okay, so different execute, they have some different executions like in deferred execution. They have some deferred execution, like both support deferred execution. Only run when dot to list dot first dot count dot for each. Then it is actually run it. Okay, select technical different So IEnumerable used when technical difference they have IEnumerable uses something like function of dynamic type of boolean with delegates. IQueryable use IQueryable use generally expression with function of generic type boolean. Expression tree allows like expression trees allow query translation to SQL expression tree. That is why IQueryable work with database. That is why works with database. Okay. Okay. So let's take when do you use what? So let's take IEnumerable. For in-memory collection. Small data. Already flash data. Use IQueryable for database query. And for large data sets. Large data set and performance optimization. Okay, so let's take interview ready. It topics. Let's definition. Let's take someone said I enable execute link query in memory. I enable execute link queries in memory. While IQueryable builds expression. Expression trees and execute the query at the data source level. such as database. Okay, so let's check final advice. If you are using entity framework, always try to keep query as IQueryable. Entity framework, keep as IQueryable until final execution. Do not convert to list earlier. To earlier. That's just about it. So let's take you everything. So let's check difference between IEnumerable and IQueryable in .NET. So what is IEnumerable? IEnumerable is used for in-memory data collections, link you to object. It's work after data loaded into memory. Example: list integer, list of integer numbers equal to new list of integer 1 2 3 4 5 6. IEnumerable int result like number where x is greater than 2. Or each where item result console.writeLine item. Here is what is in entire collection already in memory. So filtering happen in application in memory. What is IQueryable? IQueryable used for remote data source and database queries and link to entities like entity framework. Filtering happen at the database level. Example: IQueryable employee is equal to db context of employee, where result is equal to employee where employee.salary is greater than 15,000. For each where item in result console.writeLine item.name and exit. They have not execute here, not execute where. It execute when we use for each or to list or this part. When we use, then they have executed it. Here is query is not execute immediately. It's convert into SQL. Filter happen in database. So key difference: IEnumerable execution in memory, loads full data first, then filter it. Then use IQueryable, execute in database, filter before loading data, more efficient for larger dataset. Performance difference equals. Bad example: IQueryable employee.db context employee.toList, where result employee.salary 50,000. Problem happen, all employee load into memory, then filter happen. Better is IQueryable employee db context of employee, where result is employee.salary is greater than 15,000. And after we have used it, then we apply it to the filters. Now SQL query will include where clauses. Only filter data is fast. This is much faster. So different execution, both support different execution. Different execution only run when .toList first .count or .for each calls. So let's take technical difference. IEnumerable use function generic type T of boolean to delegates. IEnumerable use expression function generic type of booleans. Expression tree allow query translation to SQL. That is why IEnumerable works with databases. When When and what to use? Use IQueryable for in-memory collection, small data, already fetched data. I use IQueryable for larger database query in larger dataset. Performance optimization. Let's take answers like IEnumerable execute link queue query in memory, while IQueryable builds expression tree and execute the query at the data source level, such as database. Final advice: if you are using Entity Framework, always try to keep IQueryable until final execution. Do not convert to list too earlier. That is about it.